Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Trans Digest. My name is Wesley, he, they, and this is an unexpected segment, but one that I think might end up being really interesting and fun in the process, regardless. I am going to call this segment Tea Time because right now I'm putting on my testosterone gel. And I thought this would be the perfect opportunity and time to make like a little podcast kind of thing, similar to the streaming I do, but more in a chill fashion, more just talking and going over certain things in a highlights manner, and in a way that I would also like to leave open to anyone that is a part of the Trans Digest team to do as well. Just little episodes, long episodes, just podcasty kind of things. Even if my guy's on the screen here, it's just going to be me, some images, just talking. Nothing scripted or heavily formatted. So I figured, what best for the first tea time? And with minor editing, believe that the first thing that we could do with the tea time, I would like to go over the interview questions that we have for Trans Digest in the interview form. Now, this form is linked on YouTube. It's going to have a QR code at the end of this episode. And I figured that if these are questions, and this is a form that I would want other people to be comfortable answering and going through in an interview setting, there are questions and stuff that, I should be comfortable and willing to answer myself. So, for the first tea time, and possibly the first interview segment, we're kind of doing a self-interview for me. So, with that said, let's get on the roll of doing the questions, and let's start doing the gel. So, the first section of the form is the getting to know you section. And this is just a couple of questions to get to know you as a person, what your pronouns are, just other stuff about you, just, the basics of your life. So the first one is, tell us a little bit about yourself. What are your interests and hobbies? So, hi again. Wesley, he, they are my pronouns. A little bit about myself is that I have been an illustrationist for, I want to say about, 15, 20 years? Which is a lot to say, considering I'm 28. But yeah, it's wild. I've been drawing since I was 13, younger, and seriously pursuing illustration since I was in basically middle school. So yeah, I've been doing that. I've been doing music for a while. Right now, mainly my focus is Trans Digest, obviously, and working on my streaming and video production, content creation in general, for myself and for others. That's what my interests and hobbies basically solely roll around, and that's why I'm pursuing them. Drawing, I like talking to people through a screen, but very much so through my own time. I'm a very introverted person, so streaming is perfect for me because I can choose the level of interaction that is going on a lot of the time, and just playing the video games and connecting through that aspect, as well as providing a comfortable space for people to come and enjoy when I'm streaming. And here, hopefully, with Trans Digest, I want this to be a comfortable place for people to learn about transgender people and being transgender, and that's just behind the entire channel. I want there to be information out there, and I want it to be a safe place for people to come and learn about different things in the transgender community. So then the next question kind of leads into that is, who inspires you and who do you look up to? I have had a couple of different inspirations growing up. Not to be cliche, but my mother was a huge, huge inspiration my entire life. Not just in artistry, but in conducting business and in progressiveness. The way that she was and still is very ahead of her time with a lot of opinions and options in the world. At least while I was growing up, she always was very open with us. She always let us choose, for the most part, besides whatever was dangerous and would hurt us. The toys that we wanted to play with, and the things that we wanted to do, the extracurricular activities. The other people I look up to are a couple of different streamers and content creators themselves. There's Markiplier and Jacksepticeye, which are the big ones. They made me want to get into content creation in the first place. That was, back in 2010 to 2015. I was in it when I was watching their stuff the absolute most. That made me want to get into the content creation sphere of things, just due to the amount of community and like togetherness aspect that they had. Not to mention raising money for charity for so many different groups and sections of people, and just being able to provide a calming and comfortable space for people to come and enjoy a video and forget about their worries for a little bit, and maybe even be able to face those issues with a fresh mind after having a moment to decompress with their content. I always looked up to that. I always appreciated that. I always appreciated their openness and their willing to accept different types of people in their content. Not just transgender people, but people of any group, any religion, anything. They were very, very open, and I appreciated and loved that about them a lot. So they were huge inspirations. Lately, my main inspirations have been Snaps Cube. So that's Penelope Parker. And she does streaming and content creation as well. I found her. God, whenever the Sonic 06 dub came out, that was my first interaction, and I've been watching her content since then. I just love her stuff and her group of friends. The other big content creator inspiration that I've had recently is The Librarian, and he's another YouTuber content creator. I don't believe he does streaming, but he has the chill vibes that I'm generally going for, but also he does some horror stuff. He mainly does horror content, which is the exact opposite of my breath, but it's the vibe and the connectivity and the silly storytelling that he has that I really, really enjoy and admire seeing in content creation in general. And that's something that I would like to also provide and emulate. So then the next question is, what kind of work do you do? And or what is your dream job? So the work I do currently is I am full-time job, a manager at a small restaurant store, of which I will not name because it's a major chain, so I don't particularly want anybody finding me. And my part-time, obviously, is Trans Digest and working on that, as well as my content creation. That's what I've been putting most of my time into and my energy, and honestly, it's the content creation, and right now doing Trans Digest, which is something that I want to be out there to help people. Those are my dream jobs, and those are the things that I would want to put all of my effort into. Right now, life stuff is happening, so that can't be a full possibility. But I'm hoping one day we can get into a comfortable place where I can work towards that again. So, describing myself in 3 words is the next question, and what do the words mean to me? The first word, surprisingly, to me even, is not a word I would have used for myself previously. And this has only become a recent development due to being able to start going through my transition and being able to come out more, and that is confidence. I'm confident in myself more than I have ever been. I know more now what I want to do than I ever have before. I know I want to be more than I ever have before. And that's because I finally, the past I want to say 6 to 7 completely, but honestly, the past 3 years have been able to sit down and really look at myself and my goals and what I actually want to move forward with in my life. And I finally got the chance to actually sit down and do that, partially because of COVID and just partially because of other stuff. Going through that period finally gave me the confidence and knowledge that I have now to choose the path that I want. So I'd say the second word that best describes me would be optimistic. I've always looked on the up and up, to look on the lighter side of things. Mainly because I've always tried to see what's ahead and like how we could make things better instead of looking at what's bad and staying in that. I've always been the type of person that like the roller coaster analogy. Life is like a roller coaster. So when you're on the downward scope of the roller coaster, a lot of people will be like, "Oh, the roller coaster is going to keep going down," but I keep looking up to see the tracks go up. And honestly, I kind of think this comes from that old movie Meet the Robinsons, where their whole tagline was "Keep moving forward," and that kind of did something to my brain when I watched the movie. I realized that an intrinsic concept that I think a lot of people could use more of is recognizing the current times that we are in, but always looking towards the future, always looking towards better, despite the challenges. The third word that I would use to describe myself would be thoughtful. I've always been conscious of other people's desires and wants and needs, sometimes more so than my own. Thoughtfulness and compassion and empathy, can always end up going a little overboard sometimes where it's been my folly, but I've never seen it as a bad thing. My optimism and my thoughtfulness, I feel, has always been a way to show other people, one, just how much they mean to me, and two, that I'll always have their backs as much as I possibly can. Those are the 4 questions of the getting to know you section. So that's kind of like just the start, as you can see, the basic interview questions, the fun ones. And then the next section that we get into is growing up and realizations, where this is getting a little bit more into your identity, how you grew up with it, and what was going on there. So the first question of this section is, where did you grow up and what was it like? And that's a fun one for me, because I grew up in a lot of different places. The entire time I was growing up, all the way to even after college, we moved around quite a lot. I'd say about 2 to 3 years per place, the longest one being 8 years, and actually, no, technically 6 years, and then 2 years of that was in another state for college. And now, the current place that we're living, we've been here almost 7 years. So, in a way, my brain is just doing this mental countdown of like, how long until I end up moving to another state again? Because it's just what I've grown up with. Though, in truth, I would really like to put down roots in one place and then stay there for a much longer time. And it was very interesting growing up like that, moving to a bunch of different places, because I got to see a bunch of different cultures, a bunch of different types of people, groups, because we lived in places, like we lived in New Mexico, and we lived in California, and we lived in Washington State, we lived in Montana, we lived in Pennsylvania. For the 2 years that I was at college, I was in Missouri, which is, I think, the closest to the South that I've ever actually gotten. So the places that we lived were all, for the most part, a lot of them were mixed cultural areas, especially New Mexico, California, and in Washington. And it was really cool growing up like this because I got to experience so much more of the world than a lot of other people get to. Because when you travel for a vacation or to see a new place, you're there for a week, maybe 2 weeks, a month if you're really lucky. And you get to have experiences and you get to go do the normal tourist trap stuff. You get to do the more unique and obscure stuff. But you don't get to live and make friends and enter into the community. You aren't a part of the day-to-day stuff exactly. When you live with that, and you live with the different stuff that occurs around that instead of the normal vacation stuff where, like, the local people, their smiles, they know you're a stranger, they know you're going to be gone in a week, so they just keep up a face, and that's it. But when you live in a place for even just 2 years and you become a part of the community, you get to see a lot more deeper into that community. Especially when you have access and constant access into some of the older communities. Like in New Mexico, we lived near Santa Fe, and we would go to the Old Town area quite a lot. We got to see a lot of the culture there and a lot of the groups of people that were there. Same thing with California and Seattle. We got to see a lot of the different cultures in there, mainly in the art scene, because that's where we were mostly growing up as far as my mom's normal work. So we got to see a lot of the people that were in those communities. And historically, a lot of the art communities in many different places do overlap with a lot of the queer community. So I did get to see a lot of queer people growing up, both subtle and very much out there. So growing up with that and getting all of those experiences, I think very much opened up my eyes and the possibilities a little bit more for me than maybe some other people have. The opportunities that I had with that, I believe, are quite immense and shaped me very differently. So the next question is, how would you describe your childhood, and were you happy? And I'd say, yeah, I was a pretty happy kid. And there was a lot of stuff going on, and there was some big events in my childhood that weren't so great. But overall, I think my optimism kind of helped push me through a lot of that quite frequently. And then there was just other stuff going on. I have a lot of good memories with friends in all the different places that I lived. So I will always have those people in my mind and those experiences. So I think overall it was pretty good. The next question is, what did you think your life would be like when you grew up? And this is a fun one for me because I had no idea what my life would be like when I grew up. I was a very head in the clouds kind of kid, so I never really thought about it that hard, despite many people's attempts to try and get me to think about it very hard. It was never really a heavy concern for me because I always believed I'd figure it out either along the way or that things might just fall into place, and that might be so arrogant to say, but it was less of like, oh, things are just gonna work out. It was more of the thought of I'm going to see how things play out and work with what I can do. I never had any heavy ambitions for anything specific until recently. I don't know if that's because of anything. I've never thought super, super heavily and deeply about it. I've done a little bit of soul searching when it comes to what I want to do and who I want to be. But when I was growing up, I had no idea it was going to look anything like this. I didn't have the normal, I want to be a firefighter or a doctor or a lawyer kind of ambitions. My ambitions were, I want to be happy, and I want to make other people happy, and I want to have a good time doing that. And that was pretty much as deep as it got when I was a kid. So when I grew up and I started searching into the ways that I could maybe do that, I bounced between a couple of different options. There was choir and band and music that I was a part of. I've always been an artist, so doing art and doing art with others and making people happy with art by making art for them for like commissions and OCs and stuff online. I always found that fun. Telling stories and being involved in enjoying stories with other people. So just making people happy and enjoying time with other people, which is, I believe, what led me into content creation and that type of it in the first place. And the next question is, when did you start to realize your identity? This one is a very, very interesting question for me because it kind of went into different stages for me. It was never something that I recognized like off the bat. Like I didn't say at 4, I never had the I'm not a girl, I'm a boy phase. It was more of just this slight feeling whenever certain stepping stones of growing up hit, that something either felt off or didn't feel entirely right, and I could never quite pinpoint why exactly. I had very unique friend groups where I was friends with both girls and boys, but I was always friends with the what people would have labeled the weirder kids, the mixed and miscellaneous, I lovingly called it when I was in high school. And it was now realizing and actually seeing some of the friends having grown up themselves, it was the queer kids. And it was the queer and disabled kids, mainly, that I vibed with the most and made friends with the most because we all had that feeling in common and we all had common interests, probably because of that. So it was little inklings and stuff like that. And then in college is when I started exploring more because there was more information out there and I was actually starting to look for more information actively, but it was still passively at that point. So there were people that I was friends with, one particular in college that was a trans man that I was very interested by, and I would like to think we were at least somewhat decent friends. We didn't hang out a lot, but I admired his courage and I admired his tenacity and ability to pursue this part of his life, to push forward with it. And then after college, and when I moved back home, and then we moved again, that's when I actually started asking the bigger questions. And due to the nature of my work, at some points, especially during the winter when we were really slow, I had a lot of time to reflect and think about stuff in the past and decisions that I made and other stuff going on, and just the full whole like dissecting my own life kit and caboodle. I don't know if that's a common trans person thing, but I did it. And I just went over a bunch of different things and I was like, this makes sense and that makes sense, and there's this thing that seems a little weird. And it was just kind of the slow thing of like, in college it was, well, maybe I'm non-binary, and so I had people try that out and I figured out that that felt pretty okay. And then after college, a little bit, pretty much right after, was when I was like, what would it feel like if people called me by he him pronouns instead of she her or they them? And I had friends try that out online that way, and that was pretty like cool and interesting, and it gave me a better feeling than I had ever had before. The next question is, what were some of the things that helped you recognize your gender didn't match your sex at birth? Now, this one is a bit of an interesting one because I didn't have the 4-year-old epiphany. It was kind of a slow burn type of thing because I didn't start exploring any of that stuff until college, and after, it was only after that I recognized that there were some things that started to make sense. Like, the entire time growing up and growing into adulthood and a little bit into adulthood, there was always a discomfort when people would refer to me as normal feminine type terms. It wasn't like a gut punch, but it was more of like a slow sinking feeling in the stomach. Just that, like, this doesn't feel right feeling. Akin to feeling unsafe in a certain place. That's what that felt like. So it kind of started with that a little bit, because that always felt uncomfortable growing up, being referred to by certain terms. And then when I started exploring different terms and having friends use different terms for me, and I realized that it felt different and it felt right, and then they started referring to me and seeing me in certain ways, including me in certain things or aspects, because they saw me as a man or a non-binary person or as a trans person. It finally didn't feel like pins and needles. It felt like a hug to the soul, to put it in really funky terms. It's just a good feeling. It's a good feeling that I can't describe. And that is the stuff that helped me realize that my gender did not match the sex at birth. So the next question is, what were some positive moments in your transition? And I'm still going through the very beginning of my transition. I'm what the community would call a baby trans man. I just started on testosterone. I'm 6 months in, but that's still like the starting-ish point, getting into like the regular middle phase of it. I'm still getting to know the community and everything that's going on. But I've had some really cool moments of feeling man and masculine and just good in general, and just positive moments in general. And one of those was when my voice started to drop. It gave me such joy, and it gave me a boost of confidence that I haven't had in a very long time. As well as when it actually started to fully drop, and someone came into my stream and was like, "You sound different," and I was like, "I do." I do. It was just a really, really nice feeling, and it has been ever since. It's like I said before, it's the hug to the soul feeling. So that's one of them. Another positive moment in my transition actually came from someone else, and this was a person, maybe a non-binary person or a trans feminine person, who came into the store that I work at, and she or they were very young. And every time I think about this, like, I get so happy about it that I start to tear up a little bit, because the smile and the look that this person had on their face, like, they were beaming, they were glowing, they were so happy to be out as they wanted to be. And she or they had like overalls on and like hair clips in. Was looking very girly pop. Very, very nice, not like super dressed up, but just looking so comfortable and so happy being that comfortable. And I like took their order and I helped them very calmly. And then I went in the back and I sobbed. I full on sobbed because I was just so happy that this person looked so ecstatic just to be them. That's just one of the pivotal moments. Like, it's not even a part of my transition. It's just seeing someone else in theirs and seeing how happy they were. That just, anytime I need a burst of happiness or good feeling, I always think about that. I always think about that person, and I hope that she or they are doing well, and doing okay, especially right now. And then the next question, are there any negative moments you want to share that happened during your transition? And I've had a couple, and without, getting into the super nitty gritty, because I'm not yet ready to talk about some of the stuff quite yet, but it's kind of just the usual normal things. When I was coming out to friends and family, there were and still are at this current point, but nothing that could ever compare with what other people have gone through, at least thus far. There were a couple that were not completely there yet, and some of them still aren't, or they're still coming to terms with it, per se, and I'm letting them move at their own pace in that matter. Same with other people that I have worked with that I have told, and I'm just giving them time, and I will just slowly notch up the certain expectations as time goes on. But I'm still very early in my transition journey, so it's going to be... I'm still on the long road, per se. The only other negative moments that I've really had were some just different, like, misgendering interactions, where the people were knowledgeable and some where they were not, and I just have tried to handle everything with grace and either understanding or calmness, just as pacifist as I can possibly be. So this sort of rolls into our next section, which is current experiences. And the first question in this one is, where are you in your transition today? 6 months into medical transition with testosterone gel, creating the key time segment that we have right now. And I would say I'm about 4 or 5 months, give or take, into the social transition. At earliest, I would say 8 months, because when I started to come out to people, like, in the immediate vicinity around me, like, as far as, like, friends and family, that was back in December. As far as outer circles and within, like, different communities, I would say I started going to the LGBTQ center that I still go to now near me back in, like, the previous year, like, almost a year running the events that they would hold. Like, they had a hiking group that I was in for a little bit before my ankles absolutely killed the mojo, and game nights, which I went to for a little while, and then just caught a bad round where I couldn't go for a little while because of work. Then I started going again, I would say like 6-8 months later, and been going sort of consistently, still a little bit shaky since. And I made friends through those game nights and have now formed a little friend group, which I'm so thankful to have now, because now I have an in real life social life that I didn't have before. So that's been really, really nice. And I'd say overall online, if I considered that as like the earliest me coming out, I would say that that start of the transition into actual transition probably was about 6 to 7 to 10 years ago. So the next question is, what are your current plans? And this section is a little bit broad, but it's mainly talking about what are your current plans for transition. My plans are vague, characteristically, where I don't have anything set on a specific timeline per se. But, obviously I want to continue with the medical transition. I would like to continue with the gel or testosterone shots in the future if I need to switch over for whatever reason. And within the next 2 to 5 years, hopefully 2, I would like to save up and go for the top surgery. I don't really have a timeline or really know if I would want to at this point or in the future ever do bottom surgery. But that's just kind of, if I get there, I get there. I'll think about it. Right now, the changes that I'm seeing, I'm happy with. So we're just going to go with that and just take it one step at a time. Baby steps. The next question is, what's something you found challenging or a challenge you're gearing up to face in your transition? And that challenge would be to do the top surgery. Right now, even with where we're at in the medical community, it still costs a lot of money. And I don't know what that's going to look like in the future, especially with everything that's going on with current world events. Without getting heavily into that, I'm putting my timeline on the 2 to 5 years for top surgery because of that, and because there's just other life stuff going on where right now the money that I need to be saving up needs to go towards other stuff, for house, for personal income, and just regular interests and stuff. So that is the current challenge that I'm facing, where I'm putting that off so I can make sure that we're good and settled first and foremost. The next question is, what are you most proud of right now? Right now, I'm most proud of my coming out journey to my friends and family so far, even though there has been challenges that I have faced and that I am still facing with it. The courage that I had to have to be able to finally do this, it was building up for a long time. I have never been a confrontational person. I've never been a person that's able to do very heavy conversations unless heavily forced to do them due to a lot of anxiety that I have. It's always been a difficult thing to talk about difficult topics. A lot of the times I shut down, and it's actually a mechanism that I really, really hate now as an adult, is my brain and my body just kind of seize up. And I'm not able to think, I'm not able to move or form sentences, I just freeze. And I know it's a type of fear response, is the freeze response. And it's something that I currently am working on getting over, and that has been a part of that journey. So the work that I have been putting into that, and into being more confident and having to have more of those conversations coming out, has been a part of that, where I'm pushing myself to, even if I'm scared, and this is how I ended up finally coming out to my immediate family, is I pushed myself. And I'm just told myself in my head, you're scared, do it anyway. Just say it. Just say the words. Find an opening and say, hey, I have something to tell you. And then just say it. And the first couple of times, I kind of stumbled over my words a little bit, I think any really anxious person would do. but I did it. I was able to get myself to finally say the words and speak them out and brace myself for whatever reaction I got. And I've gotten a couple different mixed reactions, mostly good. And so now, like, I'm starting to get into that coming out section of I know what to expect a little bit, so it's a little easier to do now. Still nerve-wracking, but now I'm able and I know how to tell myself, yes, you're scared. Yes, you're scared. Just do it. Just do it and get through it, and it can be better out the other end. Like a good burp. Don't hold it in. So the next section, which is the second to last, is looking to the future. And this section is about what we're moving forward and looking towards in life, and what we're trying to focus on further on. This section is about what are we looking forward to, what are we moving towards, and what are our goals moving forward. A lot of this overlaps with some of the other sections a little bit. So the first question is, what is something you are working on improving? Right now, I'm working on improving on my confidence, and I'm working on improving my skills and my career ambitions, as well as just improving basic living conditions that we are in. We, as I mentioned prior, we're trying to move house, so I am currently working on and have been successful in rising the ranks in my current full-time job, and also looking for a part-time job on the side of that, so that way I can save up that extra money and get us into help get us into a better position and a better place. Next question is, what transition procedures are you looking at doing in the future? That's my 2 to 5 year plan, patented top surgery ambition, plus maybe bottom surgery, maybe in parentheses, in double parentheses. Do you have a vision of where you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? Not exactly. Again, as per continuum in my brain, planning for the future is not my strong suit, and I think that has something to do with my upbringing of us moving around and plans changing so often that I don't really plan for 5 to 10 years in the future. I end up planning for maybe like 2 to 3. So, but I am getting better at trying to plan out those segments. 5 years. The goals that I would like to hit is us being in a better house that is ours, or that we're renting for a reasonable price and in reasonable conditions. I would like to see myself in career-wise either where I am right now with the full-time and being able to do good in the position that I am in currently to help elevate the store that I'm in into using newer technologies, as well as broaching new concepts, and applying different methods, rewards for stuff. I just want to do more, and I want there to be more meat to the job itself, which is so far working out pretty well. Or I would like to see myself in working full-time on Trans Digest and turning this into a bigger thing. I would like Trans Digest to really take off and become something amazing for people. And I am hoping that my editing skills and that my video production skills are able to grow exponentially with it and because of it. Um, I know right now things are looking a bit PowerPointy, but as time progresses, I'm hoping that we can turn it into something a little bit more fluid and a little bit more fluid and a little bit more polished. And I would like to see my content creation grow slowly, but still well, where I have a good crowd of people, I have a good following, I'm able to provide that comforting and calming space for people with my streaming and just playing video games or doing fun stuff with people on stream to give them a nice, comfortable spot to be. I guess the only big goals that I would have for like a 10-year mark uh is being in a more present social life and having a larger social life than I had in the past, where I was very isolated, incredibly introverted, which I'll always be, but I would like to be introverted with other people, and possibly doing the whole like family relationship thing. Um, I would love for stuff to happen naturally and to just be as it is, as well as being able to visit friends and people that I haven't been able to visit in a while or ever in person. There are people that I have met online that I would really, really love to meet in real life. Last question for this section is, if you could talk to a younger version of yourself, what would you say? And this one hits a little deep for me because I've thought about this a lot. And I think a lot of trans people have. And I know a lot of them say the whole thing of like, I would shake myself and go, like, you need to realize, you need to know. But I would definitely give myself, like, past me, child me, the information that I would have needed to put two and two together to see the puzzle a little bit more fully, and to see the bigger picture of who I am now. But I wouldn't want to change a lot. Um, I wouldn't want to change a lot because I've always had that similar thought, and it's because I've seen a lot of time travel movies. I'm like, I can't change the past. I can't change the past, or I'm not going to be the same person. I don't want to Marty McFly myself. So it's always been, I've always recognized and understood that I would not be the person that I am today without the things that I have experienced and the things that I have gone through. Now, there's that small possibility that, hey, if I knew earlier and transitioned earlier, I would be in a much different place now. I would, if I gave myself and boosted the younger me and helped the younger version of myself gain more confidence when I was that age and grew up with that confidence, there's a possibility that I would there's a possibility that I would be in a completely different place right now. But I can't say if that would have been for the better or for the worse. And that's just always the kind of person that I've been, is, I don't know how to weigh the pros, or I can't weigh the pros and cons because I have no idea what any of it would lead to. So, if I could talk to a younger version of myself, I, for one, I probably wouldn't recognize myself at first, but I definitely would, like, as things went on. So I would end up changing younger me, anyway, and younger me would realize, like, oh, I wonder how that happens. But like I said, I was a very head in the clouds kind of kid. Huge reader, loved fantasy, always thought that I would get whisked off to a magical world kind of child. So, um, I would end up thinking that it was something more along that lines of, oh, I just drank a magic potion along the way, and boom, I'm a man. That's cool. Let's do that. But I guess in layman's terms, I would just tell myself, um, follow your own dreams, follow your heart, and what you want to do. Don't let the criticism of anyone get in your way, and be as confident as humanly possible. Not arrogantly so, of course, but enough to push you in the right directions and to not let people push down any of your interests or the things that you love. Don't let anyone take the joy out of the things that you enjoy. That's what my main message would be to myself. The last section is closing questions. And this is just, again, stuff similar to prior stuff, but kind of going into just a closing argument, outro, summary section. So the first one of this is, what is your identity and what are your hopes and dreams for the future? So, to put it in summary, my identity is a transmasc person. I'm more on the non-binary spectrum, but I am definitely on the masculine side. I am not on the feminine side or enjoy a lot of the feminine stuff at all. If I were to be considered a man, I'd be considered a very feminine man, but still still transmasc. So that's why my pronouns are he, him, and they, them, is because I don't really consider myself a man. I just consider myself a much more masculine, non-binary person than anything else. And my hopes and dreams for the future are to stay along with this, and to grow my career, either with the one that I have right now or with Trans Digest, and to have a comfortable living situation and a comfortable income, so we're not worried about that anymore. The next question is, what would you like to what would you like to let cisgender people listening know? And God, this is a bit of a broad question and can be answered in so many different ways, and I cannot wait to hear what so many other people have to say. But my phrasing and the thing that I want cisgender people listening to know the most personally is that if you are uncertain about transgender people, if you don't know all the details, or you think of us in a certain way, I can guarantee you that there is so much more to learn, because I'm still learning, and because people that have been in the trans community for decades are still learning, because it's a shifting and changing concept, and that we're nothing to be scared of. We're definitely nothing new. If the history video is anything to go by, and we only have part 1 out, there's even part 2 does not cover the scope of everything that has gone on. There's so much that I cannot wait to get into. The next question is, what would you like to tell transgender people listening? And the only thing I think about when I think about this question heavily is that person that I saw come into my store and looked so happy, just being comfortable and literally glowing, that if I had the chance to meet this person again, I would tell her or them that they shouldn't be afraid, and that they should never let anyone push them down, and that I, as an adult, because this was a teenager, I, as an adult, will do everything that I can in my power and with the skills that I have to help protect and make it a safer world for us. The last question of the closing questions is there anyone you would like to make a shout out or send a message to? Now, I don't personally have a specific shout out or a message to send to anyone in particular, other than promoting myself and Trans Digest specifically. So the highest suggestion that I can give would be to go check out the rest of Trans Digest here on this channel, with the Basics 101, where we do like the very basics of what is transgender. We have trans news, which right now we have some old news of when the elections were going on, where we just kind of covered what was happening and what to look forward to and how to get involved and helping in the movement, which that stuff is still mostly up to date. We have trans studies, which is the basic of trans medicine, where right now we have like the basics of it. So there's trans history, where it's going through like the very, very beginning of history all the way to the 1950s in part one. As the very, very basics, like hitting some of the bigger notes of stuff that have been recorded through history. And in each channel, I can't wait for us to get into the bigger stuff. And then at the end of next month, I would implore you to be excited and anticipatory of the last section of Trans Digest being revealed, which is going to be the mythos and more, which is talking about transgender figures and mythology, and it's also going to include everything else about being transgender that just doesn't land or is really covered in any of the other sections. It's mostly going to be about the mythology figures, but we're going to fit other stuff into there that just doesn't seem to fit with anything else. So that is the entire question portion of the interview form. And those are my answers to each of those questions for myself personally. That way you get to know a little bit more about me and what my goals are, what I'm looking forward to. And the whole purpose of this entire form and interview process is to give trans people a space, not just to talk about their condition, but to talk about what they want to work towards in the future, what their goals are, their dreams, their ambitions, what their current life is like, who they just are as a person right now. And I'm hoping that I can interview a wide variety of people, from people that are really successful and in big positions in larger careers, and people who are just your everyday person working a blue-collar job. This process and interview process has the options for full anonymity, for voice changing, for face obstruction, or not using your real face and just using vocal. We can omit or add any parts that you would like. If there's any pictures or videos of specific things that you would like to share, bring those to the table as well. I would love to see what people bring as far as videos of experiences that they've had or goals that they've reached. Whatever they have that they would like to share. I would also like to note that these forms are 18 years old and over, and we can only interview adults for legal reasons at this point in time. And that takes us to the end of the interview form. And that also brings us to the end of the very first tea time. Next time, I think I'll make a cup of tea to go along with, because I think that would be kind of a silly little thing to do. So once again, I'm Westley, he, they. Thank you all for joining, and I will see you in the next video. You can check out our other playlists on the channel for the 101, current events, reviews, studies, history, interviews, and more. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Stay proud, my trans siblings, and stick with us. See ya.